strong warm air advection, a potent moisture return, all of that combined to produce some very ominous looking weather. Up in Oklahoma, we had elevated storms move across the state yesterday morning, and then as the day went on, we got heating. You can see these deep cumulonimbus towers popping up anywhere from Guyman down towards Pampa. That's about the time we did yesterday's weathercast. And then these cells moved across Oklahoma during the afternoon. Some severe weather reported around the Enid area. And there's the damage that we saw from yesterday. Most of the reports were due to wind. And you can see the corridor appearance. Apparently a couple of bows got going here and there. And then we had some additional cells later in the evening in Texas. No tornadoes, and just some scattered hail reports closer to the time of max heating yesterday. You can see the discrete appearance of these cells. That's always a big problem when you have the kind of shear that we had yesterday. However, they did quickly form up into a squeegee squall line around 9 to 10 p.m. and moved off into Arkansas. You can see the extensive warm air advection, elevated thunderstorms out there east of Little Rock. And then west of Little Rock, there's the main squall line. And then further north, that's going to be the cold core convection going on. In wintry weather situations, that's an area where you can easily develop thundersnow. And then going through this morning into this afternoon, this is where we're at now. Big squall line from eastern Kentucky down towards the Atlanta area and down towards New Orleans. And SPC today just looking for marginal severe weather potential. There's the possibility for some low-top supercells in western Kentucky, up into Indiana, and possibly a few embedded supercells in that line further south along the Gulf Coast. There's our surface map showing an active frontal system moving through the lower Mississippi River Valley, Triple Point in southern Illinois, and an occlusion up there near Springfield. Up in the northwestern U.S., cool conditions, but we have this new system from Wyoming down to Nevada. And we're going to take a closer look at this because it will affect the weather on the Great Plains as we head into the rest of the week. There's what we have for the upper tropospheric pattern this morning. Still got that progressive pattern in place. There's one major trough, a much larger one out in the Pacific, and one thing that we're starting to see is the appearance of cutoff flows. This is going to become pretty important over the next few days. If we take a look at the Hove-Moller diagram, this is a look at the troughs and ridges around the entire hemisphere. So west to east, that's going to be left to right. The European continent over here, Asian continent here, the North American continent right there. There's the Atlantic, and here's the Pacific. So we're in this area right here. And then we have the time scale on the left side. There's November 20th, 21st, 23rd, and that brings us to this morning. So downward with time is going forward in the future, up to the current time. So what we see here is that there's a lot of potent wave activity across North America, and just in the past day or two, it's shifted out into the Atlantic. We also see that the amplitude on those troughs and ridges seems to be diminishing because we're hitting the tail end of these features right here, these wave packets. So the flow is flattening out a little bit and becoming more zonal. And if we look at the upper air chart going forward in the future using the GFS, here's these progressive waves. These are major troughs. And take a look at what happens along the tail end of each of these. We develop these cutoff flows. Here's one right there. Watch this. That shears off and we get this cutoff flow in the Four Corners area. And then watch this one here. that moves into British Columbia, plunges south, and shears off yet another wave. That's going to be around December 1st, and that's going to be associated with a period of winter weather in the Northeast, possibly in this area here. We can see that this trough right here sheared off another upper level low. These are cutoff lows, and they're actually helping to split up the flow. So we have the southern stream system in the Gulf Coast region. That's going to be active and produce a lot of rain in the Gulf Coast area towards the end of this weekend into next week. And then we have the northern stream up here. That's receded into Canada, but it is pounding the British Columbia coast with baroclinic systems. And that will probably be laying down some fresh snow cover in this area. Going forward, here's our new little cutoff low in the Four Corners area, while we're also dealing with this one around New York City. Here comes another trough. What's that going to do? Yep, that deposits a cutoff low too, and we also got a cutoff high. So now we've got a Rex block pattern. This cutoff low pattern, the Rex block, this is all going to slow down the progression on the Hove-Moeller diagram, and it will put an end to this very consistent progression of troughs and ridges that we see here. Cutoff systems have always been a problem with numerical models, and I think on this kind of scale, I have serious doubts about anything past the 180-hour point. So December, I would say we could just write off whatever is being forecast here. I really don't trust it. But in the near term, let's take a look at the weather going on. This is the afternoon chart. Sometimes we have to fill in the lows and highs, and it's going to look kind of like that this afternoon. We do see that low pressure area there in Wyoming, and kind of a hidden system across the Great Salt Lake area. Remember, we talked in our dynamics lessons about thermal gradients. Well, that's definitely one right there. In fact, that converts back over to snow as you hit the colder air in Idaho. And there's probably a little weak warm front right there. And up to the north, another front coming out of Alberta. And this is the one we're dealing with in the Gulf Coast area. So this is going to be important for the central U.S. And watch this thickness gradient as it moves eastward. This is tomorrow morning, and it's probably a little bit hard to follow, but here's where it's emerging right there. That's a new reinforcing shot of cold air. This is tomorrow afternoon, and we can see that moving south into Texas right there. It's starting to reinforce some of the cold air in that part of the state. And as it reaches the coast, we see a little interaction there with moisture out in the Gulf. We also see low pressure in the Corpus Christi area. Looks like some baroclinic development getting started. And sure enough, there it is. There's Saturday morning. Probably got ourselves a little frontal system right there. Warm air advection near Houston. Lots of moisture. That's going to be a ripe situation for development. And there it goes. Emerging eastward, and new frontal system has taken root around the New Orleans area. And there it goes. Fronts are probably looking like that, probably a occlusion up further north. So Sunday and Monday looks rainy for the Gulf Coast area, and then for later in the day Monday, looks like a well-developed weather system there in the Northeast, with some snow in the Great Lakes area and spreading south into Ohio as the cold air advection filters in. And we see that 540 thickness line all the way down into the southeastern U.S. So it is going to be a period of cold weather early next week. So yeah, we're 150 hours out. We're starting to get out of the range of good accuracy, but it looks like a succession of cold air masses making their way southward. And those are going to interact with that southern stream, and there will be the potential for development as we go into December. Dynamics 112. Are you all ready for that? If you missed Dynamics 111, that's going to be on the supporter stream from Monday. If you're not a supporter, you can get signed up and you'll get access to all those old videos. The address for that, patreon.com/metlab. Today we're going to talk about the distinction between barotropic and baroclinic systems. A barotropic state is where contours or pressure lines are in phase with thermal lines. I had to go all the way to Europe for an example. This is a forecast for the 27th, and we have pressure indicated by the black lines, and we have thickness, which is a thermal expression, in blue lines. And although the thickness does cross the contours here and there, overall they're pretty much in phase. Not completely, but almost completely in phase. That makes that a barotropic low. A barotropic low over that part of Russia in wintertime, that's probably going to be an old occlusion. Whereas in the US, everything that I found on here was baroclinic. Things are really active in the US this week, and this is an example from Monday, this coming Monday, showing a baroclinic system, and that's where the pressure and thermal fields are out of phase. You can see that right there. There's the pressure lines, and here's the thermal lines, completely out of phase. So this is definitely a baroclinic system. And the type of baroclinic system that is, that baroclinic low, that's a frontal low. Yeah, it looks like I've found a barotropic high right here. This is in the Colorado area, high pressure at the surface, and you can see that the thermal contours are pretty much in phase. So this is a barotropic high. We refer to this actually as a plateau high. And that's maintained mostly by strong radiational cooling over the higher terrain of the western U.S. And we can see an interesting transition take place. This reservoir of cool air is going to displace southeast over Texas around December 4th or so. This is pretty far out. This may not even verify, but it's good enough for the purpose of discussion. There it goes. And it picks up that low along the Gulf Coast region. You can see extensive advection taking place. The pressure and thermal fields are out of phase. So this is a baroclinic low. That's a frontal low down there in the Gulf Coast region. And those are some very important concepts we'll be exploring as we head into winter. So try to memorize those distinctions and look for these features on the maps over the weeks and months ahead. And that'll do it for this edition of Forecast Lab. Thank you for joining. Take care. Bye-bye.